If you just try again, you can find your friend time after time. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and tonight I'm happy to talk about a new book from one of my all-time favorite authors, Gordon Korman, and it is Operation Do-Over. And in case you haven't read the blurb about the book already, it's a time travel one, and it's a lot of fun. As the story starts, Mason is in high school, and life isn't so great. His parents are divorced, his dog died chasing after a roto-rooter truck years ago, and his best friend for his entire life hasn't been his friend in a few years. You see, they were inseparable. They had all the same interests. They loved geeking out about the possibility of time travel until Ava moved to town. And instead of going and sitting next to the cool kids or the trendy kids or the jocks, on her first day she came and sat down with Mason and Ty. And that was the beginning of the end for their friendship, because they realized fairly quickly that they both had a severe crush on Ava, and in a burst of juvenile optimism, they decided the only way to deal with things was to make a pact that neither of them would pursue Ava romantically. That it was going to be like a peace treaty in Star Trek. This would prevent a war. Or so they thought. Well, it doesn't take long for Mason to break their treaty. Ava has feelings for him, and they end up going to the carnival together at the Fall Harvest Festival, and there's a storm. And when the storm happens, it knocks down some of the equipment, and in the aftermath, the two of them are just so relieved to be safe and alive that they kiss, and it's caught on camera, and the whole school finds out, including Ty. And that was the end for Mason and Ty's friendship. And Ava and Mason's relationship didn't continue long because Mason was always aware of how much it had cost him. And so his life isn't so great nearing the end of high school. Well, to make things worse, he finds out that he and Ty were about to submit an almost identical science fair project. And in the process of pushing past Ty on the stairs, he bumps into a teacher and hurts her, and is going to be expelled due to the zero tolerance policy their school has for mistreatment of teachers. Things have gone absolutely south, so Mason hops in his car and drives away and gets into an accident. And when he wakes up, it's years earlier. He wakes up in his bedroom he had as a 12-year-old. He wakes up to a world where his pet dog Rufus is still alive, where his dad is still married to his mom and living there, where Ty is his best friend in the world and can't do enough for him. Now, unlike Marty McFly, Mason isn't trying to preserve a timeline. He wants to change it. He has 3 goals. Keep his parents from breaking up, keep Rufus from going after the roto-rooter truck, and keep his friendship with Ty intact. It was compelling. I was tempted to write this off as a Back to the Future wannabe book. I thought it was going to be another one of the more recent Korman books where he shifts viewpoint characters quite frequently, and that is sometimes hard to keep up with, especially things like The Unteachables, where the perspective shifted between, I believe, 5 or 6 different characters. And unless you deliberately stop reading at the front of a chapter where it says who is who, it takes some time to catch up and realize whose perspective you're seeing things from at the time. It was really, really good. The time travel story, it's been done before, but it was done reasonably well here. The idea that this girl could come so badly between 2 friends isn't entirely original, but again, it was done well. And the fact that it didn't put it all on Ava, that it was the fact that Ty felt betrayed for the breaking of this pact. It wasn't so much that Mason and Ava ended up together, it's that Mason made a promise to Ty he couldn't keep. And that was really well done. In some ways, it reminded me a little bit of Losing Joe's Place and the conflict over Jessica that rages over the course of the entire summer. Admittedly, Mason and Ty are much better friends than Jason's friends in Losing Joe's Place, but the general feeling was still there. It was kind of a nice callback. If you or the reader in your life is a fan of time travel stories, but isn't tied to the idea that time travel stories should be about maintaining the past and avoiding changes to the future, they'll probably get a kick out of this. If you enjoyed things like How to Lose the Time War and you're a Korman fan, you probably get some fun out of this. If your student or child's favorite Harry Potter book was The Prisoner of Azkaban because of Hermione's time traveling, you might enjoy this too, although it doesn't seem to be quite as closed loop of a form of time traveling as that one was. And yeah, I recommend it. Go borrow it, especially if you're a Korman fan. With that said, there are spoilers ahead because I have to talk about the deal breakers. So, my one big complaint is that the time travel in this book ignores the butterfly effect entirely. Mason makes some pretty big changes to his life. He trains Rufus to stay away from rooter vehicles. He tries to cover for his dad and encourage him to do better at not being a slob, to keep his parents' marriage together. He's rude to Ava to try to keep away from her so they never develop feelings and he won't betray Ty. He encourages a mutual acquaintance of his and Ty's to go out for a track. And he ends up going out for the football team of all things, when this is something that Mason would never have done in his previous life. Anyway, he makes all these changes, and the net effect at the very end of the book, when he goes back to his normal time, is basically that he and Ty are friends, and he's dating Ava, and Ty is dating Clarice, and Rufus is alive. There are some smaller things, like Mason is still on the football team, amazingly enough, but the repercussions seem to have been limited to that. And now, I know not everyone is going to have a huge impact on every part of the world around them, but it seems to me there should have been more acknowledged in the way of knock-on effects. In the original timeline, who was Ava with if she wasn't with Mason or Ty? How did that change their life? Who are they with in the new timeline, and how did that change things? Did Mason going into football take away time from other things in his life that mattered to him in the previous life he lived? And wouldn't his dedication to that take away from the time he had to still be so involved in Ty's life and dating Ava and being so into time travel that they could create a ridiculously intricate science fair experiment about it? I don't know. I like Korman's stuff. I always have. And I don't begrudge him writing a happy ending for the main character. It's just, it felt like there should be more knock-on effects somehow, or that, okay, maybe it should be sort of a monkey's paw bargain where he gets some of the things he wants, but not everything. About the only thing he didn't get that he wanted was that his parents were still divorced. And now, to be clear here, Korman laid the groundwork for that very, very well. When Mason is back in the past and trying to help things out, he pushes and prods from the edges, cleans a couple things up, tries to give his dad credit for things he didn't do to his mom, and tries to encourage his dad to do a better job at these things. But he couldn't fix it, and I give Korman credit for recognizing that, if a relationship had ended in divorce, a few good gestures from a 12-year-old weren't going to be enough to prevent that. The only other thing that I'm not quite so sure about maybe is that Mason eventually tells Ty in the past that in fact he has time traveled, and he proves it to him by telling him some things that are going to happen, and Ty eventually believes him, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of payoff to that belief and that realization. And once Ty does believe him, it feels like Mason should be justifying the things he's doing a little more, or that Ty would just assume that, okay, this is part of the plan, it has to do with the future, I gotta let him do his thing. And I'm not so sure that came through as clearly as I might have liked. Still, you know what? I enjoyed the heck out of it. I loved the Roto-Rooter fake out with Rufus the dog. The fact that he went missing earlier in the timeline, and Mason felt that his training of Rufus had taught him to look for the Roto-Rooter trucks and follow them. And I was expecting the worst. I expected this dog to be gone earlier than expected, and to find out that he was just heading to the place where the Roto-Rooter trucks park to watch them. That Korman got me. It was great. And yeah, I highly recommend it. If you like Korman, if you like Losing Joe's Place in particular, because I think the rivalry over the girl holds true for this. If you like Back to the Future, and again, as I said, you don't mind the idea that someone is heading back to try to change time, I recommend it. Go borrow it from your local library. On that note, if you like and appreciate the services your local library offers, why not take just a minute and tell that to the powers that be, like your mayor or city council member. We're at a time when some libraries are having trouble getting sustainable funding for the programs and materials and services they offer, and a few words in the right ears might make a world of difference. And if by chance you are a library staff member, don't forget, watching my videos counts as professional development time. With that, thank you for listening to me ramble all about Korman's latest and greatest. By all means, please like, please subscribe, and please check back and see what else I have to talk about from the Cowhat Library. Thank you. Bye now.